Hi everyone, it's Ann at Martin House Flowers. I've been away from the garden for close to 10 to 12 days and I wanted to share with you some of the highlights of our mini trip to the East Coast, visiting Maine and Massachusetts, and then another weekend in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So I wanted to just share this with you and the beautiful nature that I came across in gardens, and I hope this video finds you well and that you find it interesting. Thanks again for joining. So after spending an evening at Greg's high school reunion in Freeport, Maine, we decided to do a day hike through Wolfe's Neck State Park, and it was beautiful, just incredibly beautiful, as you can see. Technically, it is fall peeping season, fall leaf peeping season. I have to figure out what that term is, but so there were a few people on the trail, specifically around the areas where you could go down to the water, but for the most part, it was a really quiet trail at the end of September. And the weather was incredible. I think we were wearing, I was wearing a flannel LL Bean jacket that I just picked up. You saw that we were at the LL Bean store because they are open 24 hours a day and their head office is in Freeport. But it was just a beautiful, warm, sunny day. There was some shade as we were walking through the trail. We walked through the entire trail. And I believe we probably did about, it was probably about a 5-6 mile trail, but I will correct that once I look into it. But it was absolutely gorgeous. And it was, I would consider it a somewhat easy, moderate trail. You do have to be able to, we were just wearing our regular running shoes. We didn't bring our hiking boots on this trip just because we just had carry-ons. But I love the moss that was in the deep woods closer to the end of the trail at Harrisseekit Trail. I think that was, and you know, I would love to have taken some of that home, but of course you cannot bring anything back from state parks. So I had my first full lobster dinner, and of course their famous fresh blueberry pie. We shared that, and then we were on to Portland, Maine, in Old Port, and we actually stayed 2 nights in Portland and just went to Freeport from there, and then started going south. So on our second day heading to Massachusetts, or third day, we stopped at Portland Headlight in Cape Elizabeth. This is a historical fort. It's actually it was a harbor port and it was called Fort Williams, and it dates back to the 1870s, I believe, but I will double check that as well. But it was so interesting to I took photographs of some of the historical boards that were there. But again, one of the famous it's lighthouses, but it's called Headlight, Portland's Headlight in Cape Elizabeth. But definitely worth a visit. Absolutely beautiful. Apparently there was a community back in the day that was in this port, and they had like a theater and just a number of families that lived there, and it was just very historical and beautiful. When visiting Maine, I was curious to see the blue hydrangeas, and of course they had already turned to that lovely fall burgundy everywhere. I think I saw some purple, but most of them had already gone red. Following along the coast, we stumbled onto Old Orchard Beach, and Greg wanted to stop to reminisce here because this is where some of his best friends and him spent a weekend back in the day. and it used to be quite the hopping little beach town. And of course it's the end of summer, so everything was closed up on the docks there. I think there was one little bar restaurant that we stopped in for a quick drink, and then we were on to other beaches along the coast. But there you see the pier with all the shops that were closed for the season. But we did manage to put our feet in the sand, and there were a few people walking along. But my favorite beach in Maine by far is now Ogunquit Beach. And we were there during high tide, so it was so expansive and so incredibly beautiful. I definitely felt like I was in heaven. The sand was so beautiful on your feet. We managed to take our shoes off. I chased a seagull just for fun, and believe it or not, there were a couple kids that ventured into the ocean. They were actually in there swimming for several minutes that we were walking the beach. I honestly would love to come back here, and I imagine that this town in Ogunquit, you'll see that we went downtown in the evening when the sun had set. It's a pretty hopping town, lots of restaurants, but this beach, especially during high tide, I can just imagine it being full of, people sunbathing and playing on the sand. I mean, it's just so expansive during high tide, but I absolutely would love to come back here. The waves were incredible, and the water was just absolutely beautiful. We managed to put our feet in, and it wasn't too cold. So there are those kids that were hopping the waves and having a great time. I imagine they had been swimming in there for a good half hour because they were there before we started. Isn't it just absolutely peaceful and serene? I mean, it was gorgeous. So Greg's goal when we took our trip was to step into the Atlantic Ocean, and he was determined, and I thought, I'm just going to watch him. This is gorgeous. Ogunquit, Maine. So after spending some time on the beach, we made our way to downtown Ogunquit, where all the beautiful arrangements and window boxes and pumpkins were out. And even in the cool evenings, people were out on patios, and we had a beautiful dinner across the street from the backyard, or front porch, I should say, front porch restaurant. And here, through another YouTuber that I had been following about Maine, we discovered Perkins Cove, and Greg hadn't known about this place either. It was literally a couple miles away from downtown Ogunquit, and it's just a cove where they have beautiful shops, a couple restaurants, and of course the lobster boats that were so fun to see. So we were on to Boston. We passed through Boston and ended up in Chatham, Massachusetts. Hi everyone. We're here in Chatham, Massachusetts, and we're staying at this lovely inn. I chose it specifically for all the gorgeous gardens full of ornamental trees, and there's a koi pond, and anyway, it's beautiful. I will share some footage in this beautiful place, and hopefully today we get out to Martha's Vineyard. I was a little bit sad to see that the blue hydrangeas had already turned color to fall, but nevertheless it was still so gorgeous to see some of these ornamental shrubs like that golden pine, this ornamental, I'm not even going to guess what this tree is. I could look it up, but it was nevertheless so beautiful. And I had a great opportunity to meet a friend along my little jaunt around the property. And the owner, actually, I believe her name was Cheryl, and she told me that these trees were planted and established with this Japanese garden influence back in the 80s, when the grandfather of her husband had transformed all the gardens. So these fish, these koi in the pond, were just amazing. They followed me everywhere, and look at the beautiful waterfall. Look at that big boy. Oh. That's the big koi in here. Up and they come up to you. Oh, they see you. Look at them. Oh, what can we feed you? I don't think we can feed you anything. Look at that. Oh my goodness, they know you're here. They're following me. Oh my goodness. Like, here's a human. Sorry, I'm not going to feed. Look at these beautiful rooms. Oh, good morning. Oh, are they pet friendly here? Yeah. No, I didn't know the hotel was pet friendly. That's wonderful. My dog is in doggy daycare back in Illinois. I spent a few minutes talking to this lovely couple that were there with their dog Ellie Mae, and sadly she was in Chatham for some treatment, some experimental cancer treatment. So I'm praying for her recovery, or at least some bonus years. She's already, I believe she was about 14 or 15 years old, but I spent some time with her, and I don't know, she just was such a beautiful, lovely dog and full of life still. So I'm still thinking about her in my prayers. So I carried on, and as you can see, there were a number of really mature Japanese maple trees, and this was the pathway to our room. And Greg had, even though he was on vacation, had something due that he had to work on, a presentation. So that gave me a few hours to search around and discover all the beautiful nooks and crannies. And there were so many. This moon arbor, I think they call it a moon gate, but it was they were at the entrance of many of the rooms. So there are the Nico blue hydrangeas that have gone purple, burgundy and purple. And I loved how everything had cedar shakes all over. And in fact, the entire town of Chatham, I don't know if they have an agreement, but I believe every house had gray cedar shakes on them, unless it was an older home that was in white siding or white shake. So this was the parking area for our rooms and our rental car. And I went down this other pathway, just discovering all the different areas that you could play if you had kids, or there's one of those weeping cypress trees. There's just such, I believe that's a euonymus on the left there. Yes, and look how large it is. Some newer Japanese maples, but definitely some older fir trees, and it was just so much eye candy if you love trees. And Japanese maples were just in abundance. So there's a play area. This looks like a redbud or a ginkgo. So now we're headed to the pool area, as I thought I had spotted Greg walking around looking for me. And they were cleaning the pool, and apparently it is open even in the fall. It's heated, and we would have loved to go in for a swim. I suppose I could have gone for a swim that day while Greg was working, but they were cleaning, and they're only open till 9 p.m. and we didn't quite make it back in time. The first evening we arrived, it was quite late, and the second evening was after going to Martha's Vineyard. But there's a beautiful hot tub area. And there were so many little jewels around the property, little hidden gems that the owner later took me around. Cool footage here. Oh, hard to tell that's a frog except for his mouth, yeah.
I like this one down here.
Oh, look at him. And this mushroom, just so many hidden gems. This is why I picked this place. It's so beautiful. Look at this tree. This is some kind of a fir. A weeping fir. Look at that. The amount of Japanese maples, like, look at how big that one got. They're everywhere. And these little, yeah, look at this one. And then they have a little collection of bonsai trees. Hubby has to do a little work before we head out to Martha's Vineyard. Bye, honey. Did you see the pond over here? Just take a quick look. Over there, she's got cancer. Oh, maybe because she has a dog of her own. It's a little dog that doesn't like. Yeah.
Oh, there's the big boy.
Look, they just watch. Yeah, they all come over here.
I think they're running from you.
No. And they all came here, and then I went over there, and they came to me again. They just followed me everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe they've been fed now.
Wow.
But look at this. Isn't that beautiful? It goes all the way around. So I walked around there.
That is.
Ellie Mae is, I don't think she's out on the patio now, but she has cancer.
So, yeah, it's huge Japanese maple, isn't it?
I know. Look at right in the center there.
Yeah.
And all of these.
Look, he's looking at me.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, they all come up. It didn't take them all earlier. Yeah, they all come up and then they start jumping on top of each other.
Wow.
Look at the size of them.
Yeah.
And they must be protected because my koi all got eaten.
Well, it's harder for those frames to get in.
Okay.
Wow.
Look, see, this is what they did. And then I walked over there and they did the same thing. They just see you.
Yeah.
I don't think they can smell, but they see you.
They see you for sure.
And you're
looking for food.
Yeah, they're hungry. I wonder if they provide any fish food.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they have to.
No, I mean for the guests. I guess they can't. That's beautiful. We have a little patio here that overlooks. And into each little group of rooms, they have these arched trellises that are just beautiful. And the hydrangeas, I wonder if they were blue earlier this summer. So I went over to the pond area and the pool. So now we came in late last night from Maine, so I'm gonna go check out what's going on here. Oh, this is the pool area. I took a quick walk through the main lobby area, and there were so many beautiful antiques, books, and a collection of blue and white at the corner there. Gorgeous rugs, Persian rugs everywhere. And this is the dining area that I believe is open in the summertime, that goes into the patio that overlooks the pool area. So you're able to order breakfast, but you take them back to your room, and you definitely have space. With every room has a patio. So I was just investigating a little bit and wanted to see what they had to offer here. Some extra towels, and as you can see, just lots of space for guests in the busy summer months for dining and enjoying the pool. But it was just such a cozy vibe at this Pleasant Bay resort. I would definitely want to come back here, and I picked up a map as well as of the town of Chatham. I think they provided us one when we checked in the night before, but there's a blue and white, gorgeous. But I did pick up the ferry schedule, as we decided after Greg had finished submitting his presentation that we would go to Martha's Vineyard, even for just a short afternoon. We didn't have enough time to do a lot there, but we were able to cover a couple towns. So they give you all of these tourist information and just a cozy place to hang out. So on the map here, I was able to see where we had come down the coast from Freeport, Maine, along the Cape, and right at the center there, or elbow, I think, is Chatham. And if you go about an hour north, you head up to Provincetown. But I'd been there before, so we didn't have time to go back to Provincetown. Then we were heading back west down here to Falmouth and into Woods Hole, where we caught the ferry. So here's my new friend that I met. His name is Buddy, and he is a Newfoundlander
You look
dog.
like a bear. You really do.
And he was quite happy to just sit and relax. I took some pictures of him, and I just think he looks like a big bear. But he was so friendly, and the owner Cheryl was trying to get him to leave, but he just wanted to hang out with me. So here we are in the village of Chatham, with all of the cedar shake homes. We're at the corner here that's approaching the Lighthouse area and along the coastline here. So here we are at the Chatham Lighthouse, and you'll see that it's a working lighthouse, so we weren't able to go in. And I believe the Coast Guard boat is just to the right there. But it was really interesting to see an actual working lighthouse in the town of Chatham. It would be such an exciting but dangerous job to be a Coast Guard, I was saying when we were having a look. So finally, we were on the ferry to Martha's Vineyard. It had always been on my bucket list to go to Martha's Vineyard. I'd been to Nantucket several years ago, but I knew Martha's Vineyard had several towns to visit, and on that day's trip, we only had a chance to do a couple towns. The town where we landed. So the ferry from Woods Hole takes you to Vineyard Haven, and this is where we walked around a little bit. There's some shops near the waterfront, and we found the Black Dog Tavern that was recommended at the visitor center that would be open for a very late lunch. It was a beautiful ride. I didn't get seasick, thankfully. So when we finally landed on Martha's Vineyard on the island, we decided that we were in need of lunch. So we found the Black Dog Tavern open, and it was a delicious meal. I had some cod tacos, and Greg had a turkey sandwich. So Edgartown was the second town that we visited. We took the public transit bus and visited the town. Just walked around to see the beautiful homes, went down by the docks, watched the sailboats coming in. Near the dock area, I stumbled upon this cute little inn or hotel and peeked into the lobby. Just amazing decorating, so I took a snapshot. And there were some galleries open we just peeked into. We didn't really have a lot of time. The gardens were simply amazing, full of beautiful hydrangeas, of course, and all the cedar shake front homes. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm sure we weren't at the homes of any rich and famous people, but these were certainly very high real estate areas. Greg started getting a little uncomfortable as we were peeking through people's gardens, but I just thought, when you're on Martha's Vineyard near the waterfront, I'm certain that they are accustomed to all the tourists taking pictures and videos of their homes. I mean, they take a lot of pride and ownership, obviously. So now it was time to take the bus ride back to port so we could catch the second last ferry home to our inn in Chatham. So unfortunately, it was our last day in Chatham at the Pleasant Bay Village Resort, and Buddy was there to greet us as we were heading out, and he even stuck his head between the hydrangeas and held goodbye as I said goodbye to him, and we drove past our room, gave a bottle of wine that we weren't able to consume and gave that to Cheryl. There she was waving goodbye. She was such a pleasant person to talk to, and there's Buddy in his favorite spot. Well, we got back home to Illinois, northern Illinois where we live, and I was on a plane the very next day to Toronto, where my family lives, and my daughter and my beautiful grandpuppy Millie lives. And we had a couple of beautiful morning walks, and I think on the second day, on the past weekend here, we took a walk down to the lake. My daughter lives just about 5 blocks from Lake Ontario, and she's so fortunate to own a home in this very expensive town. And I was there specifically to attend and help organize my daughter Holly's baby shower. I am going to be a nana. I am so excited. And I've always been a grandma to Millie, my grandpuppy, for quite some time. I think she's 3 years old. But anyway, it was such a beautiful weekend, and I was so fortunate to be able to have another warm weekend in Toronto to spend time with my daughter, both my daughters, and Millie, of course. Millie is the most lovable dog, and my parents live in a condo not too far away from here. They're about a There we go. There's the CN Tower downtown. But my parents live all along this lake here on Lakeshore in a condominium that they've owned for many, many years. And they're about a 5-minute drive. Millie was great going down to the lake, but heading back, of course, she is a 3/4 Bernese mountain dog. And they often are known for just deciding that they're done on their walks and they will just lay down, and my poor pregnant daughter has to lift her up. So on my last day to Toronto, it was time to celebrate my youngest daughter, Holly, and her husband, Patrick, for the upcoming birth of their firstborn baby. So there's my oldest daughter on the right, Hannah, Holly in the middle. And my job was to create flower arrangements, and I picked up these bulk flowers from Costco and created 6 mason jar arrangements. My feature flower was a sunflower. And then finally I came home last night, and Eddie and Greg greeted me at the airport. That was the second clip I took, but when the first run that he came at me, he must have jumped up at me and gave me 6 kisses. He was so happy to finally see me. Poor Eddie has been in daycare for several days while we were out east, and then he finally came home for a day with Mom, and then Mom had to leave. I had to leave, and at least he was, home with Greg and the kids. So that is the end of my adventures over the last, I think, 12 days. And I thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed this video.